Hello and welcome to part 2 of our mini webcast here at the heart of Zurich with Elmar, Meyer. Elmar, thanks a lot for keeping with us. We are looking at entry to market into the Middle East. We touched in the first episode about how regulated financial institution can capitalize on the boom that is happening there in terms of client and opportunities. Now we are going to shift gear towards what we like to call the smart money, the sophisticated money, proprietary investment. And my question to you to start with is, how can Swiss or Swiss-based family office and ultra-high net worth take advantage of the suite of solutions and tools that now exist in the UAE?
Yeah, so we see a lot of clients going down with golden visas. So they start with residency, and residency is super easy in the UAE, as you know. There is an easy way to do golden visa for you and your family if you go there and start investing. I think that's a big contrast to Switzerland, where it's much more formal. It's different from canton to canton. So we see a lot of ultra high net worth families going down. If it's only for a second pillar of their wealth, but they go down, and they have basically then two legs to stand on. So one is Switzerland, one is UAE. And obviously, besides tax benefits, there is a fantastic lifestyle. There's the connectivity of Emirates and Etihad flying you to the world in no time. And the time zone is also very easy between Asia and Europe, right? So I think it's strategically a very important place to be, Dubai. It has its upsides. But I think why the move came now is after COVID. Yeah. You could see basically Dubai changed and opened the market very rapidly again. People could move again. They were basically letting people go free again after vaccination, whereas in Switzerland it was a big issue, wasn't it? So people thought, like, okay, this is maybe something we can consider as a second home, and we see that a lot now with clients going down. And I believe also investment opportunity-wise, there's more and more coming from the Middle East. It's not only America, it's not only Asia. I think these are the two main drivers that put families into the plane and down to Dubai.
Yeah, fully agree. I think you mentioned deal flow. This is new. 20 years ago, when you and I arrived to Dubai, there was zero deal flow there, and everything that was coming was rotten. It was like second, third, what people did not want in Europe, the US. It has completely changed, and that's because it's driven by the government, the semi-governmental entities that are actually investing heavily and want to invest with families. So as a result, it's very inclusive, and deal flow is really one of the key aspects that we know clients are telling us. This is why we want to have a good pulse there. You mentioned the second leg. You mentioned the golden visa too. Where else in the world can you get the equivalent of a C permit straight away for 10 years, permanent, without even investing? If you have the right profile, this country wants you. And maybe a third avenue, and that's where I want to hear from you from a Swiss perspective. As we know, the UAE has done a huge effort to build a toolbox of tools and solutions for legacy planning, asset management, single family office type license that are unsupervised. So how, from a Swiss perspective, are these tools appealing or not? And do you see people in Switzerland actually using them, and for what?
Yeah, I think if you go from an institutional level, single family offices in Switzerland, they use Dubai or Abu Dhabi, depending on how they're set up, as a second leg for investments. So they hold investments there. Yep. Not only UAE investments, global investments. So that's number one. And number two, obviously there is foundations, there is trusts that you can use as structuring products for your structuring wealth. Some of that things are not available in Switzerland. In Switzerland, I cannot make a family trust for my family, right? It's not allowed by law. And whereas I can put all my money in a trust in the DFC, which is regulated in the center, which is supervised, which is safe. And I know I can basically put that money safely there. There's privacy restrictions on it. There is asset protection parts on it. So I think it's a very, very interesting structuring product. And we see more and more interests because also people are spending more time in the UAE because of the golden visas we mentioned before. These come more and more to mind when we discuss about investment structures.
You mentioned asset protection. That's really relevant in today's world and something that we know families are looking for. 3-year statute of limitation to attack a fiduciary structure in the Middle East. That's nothing. That's in a global financial center. That's unheard of. And you mentioned something that we believe at MHQ is the new super currency. It's privacy. All these tools are fully compliant, you disclose everything to the regulator, but there's no data in the public domain if you do not want it to be. And we think this is a very powerful tool to be used by family, at least to be aware of.
And I think the numbers give you right. I think the raise of the foundations is crazy, no?
It has grown a lot. Introduced in 2017, we now have more than 2,000 foundations overall, but that's not the real story. The real story is this year alone, there'll be 700 foundations registered. So it's a real mainstream product, designed and built for local and regional families, and particularly Muslims, but very useful for anyone internationally that would be keen on exploring a second hub next to, for example, Switzerland. Which, nice segue, taxation. How does that flow, the use of these investment structure, fiduciary structure in the Middle East from a fiscal standpoint, maybe combined with residency, with someone that would have either a nexus or a connecting point in Switzerland?
Yeah, so again, the Swiss tax authorities will be very happy to tax you whenever they can, obviously. So if you have your assets only in Switzerland, in the UAE in a structure, they would be taxed locally under UAE laws, which is probably zero, as you said. But if I take out money and I still am tax resident in Switzerland, then I will be subject to Swiss tax, income tax, potentially capital gain tax, whatever the structure is. So I think it's always advisable that you look at both jurisdictions, that you look where your actual natural person tax domicile is, and you basically invest accordingly. I think that's what we always tell our people. You cannot be in two places when it comes to tax, so choose the one wisely.
Can you maybe give me a practical example of how a Swiss family might combine some of these tools that we mentioned, let's say residency, foundation, single family office, for a wealth management strategy and approach?
Yeah, what we've seen is they go down, obviously, probably been there on vacation a million times, so they do the golden visas. And with golden visa, it's very easy then to incorporate structure. So let's take a DIFC foundation, for example, for the family. They fund the foundation with money, and then basically they start investing in different verticals below, either with SPVs or directly. And all of this is then basically summarized on foundation level, which then can be again for the beneficiaries of the family. So that we have seen. I think that's a very interesting structure and very easy to manage.
Yeah. From your perspective, you have a good pulse of Switzerland, where there is a debate around family offices being potentially supervised. We have seen Singapore change gear completely, going from unregulated to now having to do substantial reporting on the assets held and geolocation of these assets. The UAE has a completely different approach because it has developed its product primarily for the local and regional market and local families that do not want to be regulated, as long as it's single and proprietary investment. Where, from your perspective, do you think the world is going on that? And do you think family will be more interested in unregulated solutions or something that is more supervised?
Yeah. In Switzerland, there's this discussion for a long time already, as you know. There's a little bit of uncertainty where this is going to go. My take is that after a certain size, there's potentially an oversight coming in of some shape or form. In Switzerland, we don't only have the FINMA level, we also have the self-regulatory level, as you know, and this might come in for family offices, we don't know. So that's a risk that some family offices really don't like, and that's also one of the reasons why they would set up a shop in the UAE as well. So I think that's one reason. And the second question that you ask, I think it's going into the direction that if you're big enough, you could be able to choose whether you want to be regulated or not for certain reasons, right?
We like that. We like to work with families and to give them the choice, and we think the regulator should give families the choice. Example, We talk about governance a lot. We like for families to explore one regulated structure in their empire so that it becomes some sort of a governance lab, because there you are forced to have proper governance and you can maybe learn and implement that in other part of your business. So we like that a lot. I think it helps with counterparties too. It helps to raise money. You can do a lot of funky stuff. But we fundamentally believe at MHQ that people should have the choice. It should not be imposed on families. It should be optional, but I think there is a spot for both. From your perspective, and we'll finish on that, for a family that is in Switzerland, that is keen on exploring UAE solution for, let's say, investment that are outside of Switzerland and outside Europe probably, give me a few don'ts. So what should people not do?
So what you should not do, as I was saying in the beginning, is don't do this as a remote operation. Right? If you want to invest in Dubai, go to Dubai, put people on the ground in Dubai, put structure there in Dubai, both for tax reasons, but also for investment reasons, because you need to know what's going on in the region, right? To get to the nice deals, to get to the deal flow, you need to go to the dinners, you need to, it's a face-to-face community, as I mentioned before. So when I say don't, please don't do this as a PO box, and also don't, please make sure all of your, let's say, corporate governance documentation is really up to speed, because otherwise, first of all, the UAE regulators, they look at this stuff, right? And also, obviously, if you're in Switzerland and the UAE both, you need to prove that you have active business down there, and you need to document it. So one is be there, and two, document it.
And I'll second that 100%. And actually, that brings us to the end of this mini-series. And my takeaway would be, I think that Switzerland and the UAE have never been closer in terms of what sort of services they want to render to clients, and never more compatible. And that's an opportunity. I think Switzerland has a strong brand in the Middle East, despite what has happened the past 20 years everywhere. I think in terms of custody, the quality level is excellent here. That's another opportunity for players to go and eventually expand there. So the brand is there. And for one to want to, let's say, grow and value and wealth and clientele, we believe this is the place. And clearly from your input, it seems that you are on this side as well. So Elmar, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And I'll see you in the Gulf very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.